Hi, and welcome to episode 222 of the Untethered Podcast. Today we have Casey Masalehdani joining us again to continue the conversation from last week. Casey is the owner of Explore Speech. She's a speech-language pathologist, feeding therapist, and orofacial myofunctional therapist with a master's in speech-language pathology and a TSSLD certification. Casey works with a variety of populations and disorders, as we talked about last week, across settings, and she's gained tremendous experience through specialized coursework following her grad school years to better serve the populations that she assesses and treats. However, Casey is also a business owner, and that is what we're going to dive into a little bit on the remainder of our conversation that you're about to hear. Let's dive in. Quick disclaimer: all information, content, and material of this podcast are the opinions of the speakers and is for the informational purpose only and not intended to serve as a substitute for the consultation, diagnosis, and/or medical treatment of a qualified healthcare provider. Welcome to the Untethered Podcast. I am your host, Hallie. I'm a certified myofunctional therapist, feeding specialist, podcaster, business owner, and mentor. This podcast is all about getting your questions answered and collaborating with colleagues to bring you the most up-to-date information in the orofacial myofunctional therapy, airway, tethered oral tissue, and pediatric feeding therapy space. If you're new here, I challenge you to keep an open mind and join my mission to spread this message far and wide. If you've been around since June 2019, thanks for being a loyal listener. As we jump into today's episode, remember to listen with correct oral rest posture. Tongue up, lips closed, teeth apart, breathe through your nose. Let's get started. Hey friends, so you're going to hear the rest of the conversation with Casey and I, continued from last week, and we're going to talk a bit about things more on a business front, change that needs to happen. And change includes hiring to help execute like all the things in a business, growing pains and mom brain, and to topics like putting the patients first and standing up for what you believe in, but also engaging in ethical information sharing and not sharing misinformation, not shaming other providers or parents on social media, for example. As two neurodivergent human beings, Casey and I really talk about, how important it is to accept yourself and embrace yourself and love yourself. And so join us for the rest of our conversation, part two. I love the remainder of the conversation. We had a great conversation last week, but this one really starts to dive into some more of the business things and other fun topics, as I mentioned. So join us. And then next week, we'll be diving into more of the specifics and more of like a mini business series on hiring, because you guys have asked me for help with hiring. And so I've asked everybody to submit questions. We've had some questions come in, and we'll be talking about hiring and all things hiring for the next several weeks. If you have any questions about that, or you want to share some input and you're listening to this the first week of July, please send me a direct message on Instagram at Hallie and let me know what it is you want to learn about hiring. All right, let's jump in.
I'm actually, my niece, I'm working, who has a master's degree in creative business enterprises. I'm working to have her come out here to be the executive of operations with me for Explore Speech, to help me take my ideas and formulate them into the posts and to get my website with my blogs. Because again, this is me. Everything.
Right. I'm the same way.
Nobody can read this and share this on their Instagram though.
No, but it's so funny is that like people would look at me and be like, oh, you seem so techie, like your business is all online and this, that, and the other. And I am like, I don't like change. I don't like new things, but I will go with change if it's for the better of me and not me, but like the business, like my businesses, right? The people who are in my business, right? So like, that's why I bring other people into my team too. Cause I'm like, okay, this sounds great, guys, but this is like my like arch nemesis. So like you are going to like carry it out. We'll discuss it. We'll have a plan. And your job is to carry it out the plan.
Right.
But the same way, whenever I'm like, every single time I've written a course, people would be like horrified to know that it's taken me so long, probably because I literally have an entire ream of paper and I am hand writing everything, and then I'm handwriting it, forgetting that I already did it. And then I'm creating like a poster, forgetting that poster. So I have like these big, the big sticky note poster boards, and it could literally be hanging on the wall next to me. I will forget that I already did that. And I will redo the entire thing. And then I'll look over and be like, oh, it's right there. Okay. We already did this, Hallie. Like, I thought I did this, but like, I couldn't find it. It's sitting right next to me. Like, that is just how I operate. And that's okay, because that's who I am. And I learned to accept that a long time ago.
And the quicker we accept it and we embrace ourselves and we say we are still amazing individuals with unique, creative
Love it or hate it.
And it's great. And I'm smiling so big talking to you, because it's just so nice to know there's other people out there, and it doesn't make us, a bad mom because we forget things. We're remembering so many other things is the thing too. Like, we're able, and when we embrace our strengths and know, like, oh, we have really good, maybe visual skills, but not always auditory. Like, I have to, skills in my life. Like, when my husband, I'm like, please don't tell me anything. Please text me it verbally. I need written reminders, and you have to hang it on the wall, and actually also tell me, because I need all three forms.
Right. No, I'm like, I need every domain, but also like, I'm like, if it's not on my calendar, it won't happen. And like, so one example, and then we'll start wrap up, because I know I've been chatting for a while, but it's like, in my online business a very long time ago, I had, and I'm going to do a whole business series at some point, like soon, once I'm on the other side of this, because like I wanted to burn the whole business down like a couple months ago. And basically somebody had to be like removed from the business, and now I've got like a new COO, and everything's really going very well. But at the time, living in it, like, I was just like, I'm done. I'm done today. I don't want adults anymore. But what I, realized was I've been paying for all these systems, and I've had team members trained in how to create standard operating procedures by another person in the online business at the very beginning of the business, and this person being on the team. The person who trained them basically does this for a business that makes like more than $10 million online per year. So like, the person knows how to run the business. Like, this is the integrator, the COO of that business, right? So the person that I had just like chose, I guess, not to do it, whatever. So I'm paying for all these systems, and because as the CEO, I'm like, well, everybody else is using what I put in place, and they've been trained, like, all is good, great, we're good, right? I come to learn like several years in, no, nobody's using this, and none of this is done. And that's why things are like falling through the cracks. And when we were a smaller online business, we're still 7 figures at that point, but like, we had less going on, we could maintain, and things were not falling through the cracks as much because it wasn't as much to manage. And now that we've kind of like grown a lot more, it's like, oh boy, like everything's shit's hitting the fan, because there's not enough hands on deck. The person who's supposed to be overseeing all this is just not. The systems are not automated. People are not getting reminders. And then there's me sitting here who's like the ADHD individual who's like, oh, what is going on here? Like, how did this get to this point? I thought everything was okay, And so at the end of the day, it's like, I had to take 20 steps back as a leader and be like, okay, what are the lessons in this for you, Hallie? Like, as a business owner who fully trusts my team, I don't micromanage. That's not my area of expertise. If I try to micromanage as an ADHD individual, I will get absolutely nothing done, not just today, but for the next 5 weeks, because I just deep dive, and then I get into it. I'm like, and this is why I have a team, right? So I love that, like you were saying, that like you're bringing her in to kind of help execute some of these things, because there's so many lessons and messages and stories to be shared by being a individual who's gone through like our parallel lives that we've led from childhood to where we are today, literally. Like so many similarities.
And you have 2 daughters too.
I got 2 daughters, struggled with math. I definitely had my sleep disorder breathing, tongue tied early on, and sleep disorder breathing from when I was a child, like very young. ADHD was there, but like every different professional had a different opinion. So like nothing ever changed. I compensated through, got to college first year, basically struggled to keep up my grades, even though I was like studying. People were using my notes and getting A's, and I was getting C's on like classes. And I was like, what is happening? And then got tested. They put me on Ritalin. I learned how to actually study though at the same time, and like basically went to like a 3.8 and then a 4.0 the rest of grad school. But I was also locked in a room. Don't bother Hallie if her door is closed, because I have to chunk my learning, but also that means like learning for like 5 hours straight at a time with like my own built-in breaks. I would literally sit there with a bowl of like a big old bowl of grapes because they were hydrating and I suck at drinking water and eating when I'm like in my zone. And I would just like sit there like popping grapes and doing my little flashcards and popping grapes and studying my little flashcards. And people would come talk to me like, not now, don't talk to me. I can't do that. I can't compartmentalize, like study. If I leave, I'm done. Like, but that's what worked for me. Yeah. And that's just the point that I was at. And it's so, it's so fascinating to hear that others like have had these experiences too, because even as an adult now, I look back and I'm like, nobody else was doing that. Everybody else was just out partying and socializing. And I was literally locking myself in my room, and I would do like in-room workouts, and I would do like, I barely would go to the gym. I would just like, I need to stay here. So I'm in my zone and I can do what I need to do for me. And it's isolating. And then even as a business owner, it's isolating because you're like, I love my work. I love my mission. I love what I do. But nobody, and I'm surrounded by business owners, but so many of them don't get me. And so many of them don't understand what I do. And so many of them don't understand the energy that it takes to create and put your vision into practice and actually like bring it to life. Right. And then when they do understand, and then you hire people on your team, and then they like, you later learn that some of these people and well knowing have not been doing their job for a couple of years. And you're just like, wow. Right. Then you start to ask questions about yourself, like, wow, Hallie, like wow, I suck as a leader. Wow. I really, should have. People are like, how did you not see that? And I'm like, I don't see it because I'm a big picture person. I'm not a detail person. That's why people like me have to hire people who are detail oriented, because if I get into the details and nuances, you won't see me for 3 weeks. Like I can't come in and go out. Like I just can't. And I'm not going to try and change myself. Like I don't want to either. So I'm like, I'm cool with that. And so you do put a lot of trust, right, into having to like lean into those people who work with you and who are on your team. And then, and you're going to have bad apples. That's just part of life. And I think you have to almost anticipate it, because being a business owner is not easy. Being an adult is not easy. Being a human is not easy, right? But we can choose to make it easy by putting things in place that support ourselves if we understand who we are, what we need, and what that looks like. And I think that's been the biggest part of my learning journey, is figuring out like who I am, what I need, because people are like, oh, go hire that. And I'm like, huh? Well, what does that person even do? Like, I can go hire a COO. What does a COO do for me? Like, I'm not that person. I haven't had that experience. And they're like, I have run the back end of my business, and I can literally do almost anything does not involve like coding in my business at this point. But at the end of the day, it's like, I didn't know at the beginning of this journey what I was hiring for, or who I needed to hire, or what that looked like, or what to pay them, or what was fair, or because it was new. And I see things that are new, and I'm like, I will jump in like recklessly without thinking about it and just go like hit the ground running. But then in terms of like hiring other people, I hit pause, because I'm like, this is an investment in time, money, and energy, which is going to pause me from doing what I want to do. But I also know I need to do it because it's going to help me, but also I have no idea how to do this. So like, right. And so it's just, all that to say that like, I've learned a lot being an online business owner, even after having a practice since 2014, totally different world. And yes, there are life lessons from that too, but it's just, I look at my ADHD and I always go, it's both a blessing and a curse, right? It's like, it has brought me to who I am. It's brought me the ability to have this big mission and to go out and do things. And I've had amazing mentors along the way who have taught me things like you said, right? There's no such thing as perfection. One of my mentors said to me, and has said to a bunch of us, who was like 70% perfection is success, 100% perfection is failure. He's like, if you're so worried about what other people think about you, you're going to miss out on why you're here and the purpose that you're here to serve. Like basically head down, focus on that, focus on the people who want to be around you, because you're going to attract your tribe when you're putting out that kind of energy. Right. And like the rest of them can go on their merry way. Right. It's just, it's not your job to make everybody happy. It's your job to serve the purpose that you're here for. And I think like just so many of these different like perspective shifts for me were just like, okay, head down. And I did this with my private practice too, without even knowing. I was just like, head down. Honestly, I think part of that was just also being naive. If I had known then what I knew about how many practices were around me, I don't know that I ever would have started my own practice. And now I've got this, booming practice. But it's one of those things where like, I was not naive when I got into the online space. I'd actually tried to do it 9 years prior and like kind of failed / quit. And when I did this time, I was like, all right, I'm doing all the things that I've avoided doing in the past to bring in the people that I need to make this happen, which is going to be a big investment because I'm going to do it the way that it works for me. And I built up the ability to do that from the other things I've put in place in my life to now bring this forward, right? And so, everyone kind of looks at it and they're like, wow, how'd you do that? You make it look so easy. And I'm like, easy about it. And I'm not, everyone's like, oh, you moved to the beach. I'm like, I've been to the beach like twice in the past 6 months. Like
Right.
I'm still a parent and a business owner living my life. So yes, I live 15 minutes from the beach. And yes, I want to get there more. And yes, that is a goal of mine. However, like that's not why I moved here. Like, yes, the quality of life, being outside more. I can go outside in my pool in the backyard and I will walk around my pool while I'm editing a document. And I joke with my family and like my assistant, I'm like, one of these days you might find me in the pool with my phone because I am kind of like going to just probably like be so in my zone that I'm just going to walk right into the pool. So, it'll be fine. I can swim. We're good. But just FYI, like if you see me pacing around the pool, it's because I'm trying to get some steps in while I'm editing a document and do some like grounding with my feet to like help regulate myself. Like it's all very intentional.
Well, I just love you sharing this story, Hallie. And, it's just so important that you do share these inside tips about yourself and this vulnerable information because,
We're all
as
human.
we're all human and we oftentimes, again, don't want to show our full selves to others because we might think that they will think less of us as a professional. But over the past 2 years, I've learned the more I show my true self, the more people respect me as a professional because I'm showing that I'm also a human and also a mother, which changes your brain. We know science, having a baby changes your brain. So when you've gone through that, you can attest to the fact that you are no longer the person you were before, and each baby changes you. And, we all live on this earth together and we want to make it a better place by advocating for all different groups that are not always accepted. And so it's my mission to change that and to not have to defend ourselves so much in our actions and what we're doing. And people often see the success at the end and think, oh well, she's so lucky, that must have been easy. And the only way people can understand that it wasn't is by you sharing all of that. And I too now know sharing my story will help others too. I can't just do the end packaged pretty product living in LA by the beach myself as well. I'm living my dream. I manifested everything on my vision board, including talking to you. I'm going to show you my little book. It's right here, but I'll save the embarrassment.
We like vulnerability. That's like completely welcome.
Take that back. Yes, I'll share my vulnerability that, I bought, this book a year ago, and I wrote down the most outlandish dreams in the world that I could think of, 100 different goals from getting a Peloton to talking to Hallie Bulkin. And, I have been checking them off and it was not easy. I have had learning difficulties, loss, and trauma in my life that has affected me and made me the sensitive, creative ADHD person that I am. And again, being ADHD, we have something called imposter syndrome and we have sensitive rejection dysphoria. And, we're very sensitive people. And when we feel that people don't like us or something, we may go into our shell and get very discouraged. And like you said, when you had that huge issue happen with your business, you almost wanted to just burn the whole thing down because you felt like, well, what is the point? This is my life. I am here putting my passion into this. So it can be very discouraging. And that's how I feel when I see social media posts that are meant to be harmless, but are really mocking tongue tie. I get a dysphoric feeling and I get very upset because I feel like those posts are just misleading and there's no place for them.
They are misleading. Yeah.
They're very misleading. And I've actually sent them to my friends who are moms. I said to them, what would you think? Don't pretend you never saw my page. Please try to blindly tell me, what would you think if you read this? And I've had responses, and this is where I'd love to do research, even, asking other moms and collaborating with you on ways we can end this, because it's not about spilling the tea, controversy, hot takes. I mean, that's how I'm starting to say it as I start to talk about these things because they've been so taboo. Right. But really, again, this has gone back to 2007 because of one research survey that created a whole entire
Yeah, well, I think it's been around for like way longer than that, but I think social media, right?
Social media.
That brought like around that time, like that brought it to the forefront because people didn't have the online voice that they now have until Facebook was a thing, and then Instagram was a thing, and TikTok, and and you start to look at all these social media platforms, and now anybody can be an expert, and anybody can put out their, hang their hat and basically say, and for whatever reason, our state license boards and ASHA they're not doing anything to protect our scope of practice, or the fact that you need a license to do infant feeding, and you need a license to do feeding, period. And there was this whole big conversation in a group yesterday, and I don't usually go into these anymore because for me, the energy surrounding it is just not healthy. And it kind of sends me down. I'm like, you know what, there's other warriors out there who are fighting this good fight. I will let them fight this fight because I know that they got us, and I'm going to just stay in my corner right over here.
Same.
Yeah, because I used to go like full throttle. And
I remember I sent you a post a couple months ago when I was the same. And but over the past months, I've channeled my energy into, instead of feeding into the negativity and getting so riled up, that was the catalyst for me creating my manual. And
I love that.
When I heard your podcast, I was driving. Sorry, I don't promote texting and driving. I pulled over and I quickly emailed some frantic email saying, "Hi, I'm Casey, an SLP, I listen to your podcast every time I go to work, and I just have to talk to you because that came out, and then another thing came out, and it riled me up. But I said, I don't want to give into the negativity. I want to be a positive light, and be the change, and be someone that moms can come to without judgment, because that's another thing. I want to talk about. And I know we're wrapping up soon, but
we can split this into 2 episodes. It's fine. Yeah, we're talking like business and ADHD. We're talking like, all the things. It's so good.
We could do part 2, because I also, one of my big passions is helping moms understand the oral myofunctional and motor development from birth to 3, and understanding why we want to get rid of pacifiers and bottle. And hey, my mom never taught me this. And hey, grad school never taught me this. But really highlighting, not to shame you. I gave my daughter a bottle till she was 18 months old. I didn't know. I gave my other daughter a bottle till she was 22 months old, and Passy till same. I didn't know. I'm dealing with the ramifications now, and I'm still, and that's early. Some people extend much longer because they don't know or understand the true impact. And I work with families who don't know how to get rid of pacifier because the baby's crying a lot and life is stressful, and we live in this society where we're going on. They need that. So I'm not shaming you. I get it. I'm not going to say cold turkey.
Right. But that's why you listen to your patients and the parents, and you work with them to basically, and we can educate, and then they at the end of the day get to decide based on what we've told them, like what they want to do, what they're willing to do, what they're going to do actually what they tell us they may do, right? Which, because I never want a patient to tell me they're going to do something and then leave and be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Because that means we failed them.
Exactly.
So for a patient, that means we talked at them. We projected our beliefs, our experiences on them. And so I think we can share our experiences in a way that helps them connect with us and helps them open up to us, versus saying oh, well, this has been my experience, and using that almost as an attack in a way that's well, because I'm so experienced in this and the research said that this is what you need to do for your child. And I hate to say this, but there's a couple people, one has me blocked on Instagram, for example, who they're not parents. And I never want to say this in a negative light about a therapist, because they're incredible therapists who never want to be parents. They're incredible therapists who are just not parents yet. And so I'm not saying this globally as a black and white kind of thing. Okay. What I'm saying is, one of the biggest voices in this anti-TOTS camp is not even a parent. And to speak as if when you've never had that experience yourself, to me it's a non-starter. That is a non-starter. I will never listen to any professional that talks as if they've been through the experience when they haven't, because I'll be the first one to say, you know what, I can't relate to that. I've never been through that, but I'm here to lock arms with you and help you figure this out, and, share with you what I do know. And at the end of the day, your goals are my goals. Absolutely. And I think we have to embody that for every patient. And, and so I love what you're sharing. I love all the vulnerability here, because
it's so important, Hallie.
We're humans.
We're humans. And it's not a shameful thing what you just said. Yes, being a parent, I just was at the OBGYN for an annual, and I was discussing a little bit about this because clearly I can't ever not talk about this to anyone I encounter. And talking about my birth trauma and all things, again, moms don't talk about, because mothers normalize everything, especially bad things. Oh, sure, my baby was in the NICU for 7 days and I had to go. Oh, fine, normal. No, these things are challenging and not okay. And they affect us, and they affect maternal mental health. And again, to flippantly post research about low level evidence about decrease in nipple pain, that is huge evidence. If a mom has less nipple pain, they're going to more likely breastfeed. And then that's going to change the entire breastfeeding relationship.
And the child's facial development.
The child's facial development and the mother's hormones and mental health and self-worth and so forth. Everybody has their individual choice. If you don't want to breastfeed, that's fine. And so forth. But to flippantly share research in this negative way is that's the opposite of what research is. You can flip any research and say,
it's actually like a licensure issue too. It's unethical.
It's actually unethical.
You could lose your license from misrepresenting your credentials, your expertise for flipping like research. And if you want to say this is one interpretation, that's fine, but that's not how these people pose it. They pose it as though like, this is how this research is meant to be interpreted, or like, this is what this means. And they're actually twisting it to fit their agenda. And like, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, my patients are my priority.
That's our priority, bringing it back to the patients. And I love how you said that, because we could get.
And anyone who's on that anti-TOTS camp is not prioritizing their patients.
They're not for patient And I think that's the way we can help end the stigma. And when we talk about research, and when we talk about evidence-based practice, and we talk about pseudoscience, you can see whom is promoting unethical practices just by
nature of what they talk about.
About what they talk about. And if anybody is so vehemently against a medical diagnosis that it has an ICD-10 code, by the way, I would be weary. And yes, it is very beneficial to speak to mothers and parents and individuals who have children with tethered oral tissues and talk to them about their experience, because it's individual and it is prevalent, and it affects the sensory nervous system, mental health, facial development, and everything in between. And I just am so happy to talk to you about this, and I'm so passionate about it. And I just, again, want to bring it back to the patients, bring it back to positivity, bring it back to that song that starts to play in my head when I talk about this. Why can't we be friends? We're all SLPs. We're all smart. We don't need to have these superiority complexes.
It starts with us, right?
It starts with us.
As providers. And those of us who are parents and modeling this for our children. Like, I said something to my daughter yesterday, and I don't remember what it was. I was like, oh, all you need is X, and whatever I said. And she looked at me, she goes, I thought all you need is love. And I was like, oh, I love that. I was like, okay, that's kind of, I was like, it kind of didn't really make sense in the situation, but I was just like, the fact that that's where her brain just automatically went when I said is all you need is, she filled in the blank with love. And I was just like,
Hallie, that was my wedding song. I'm a huge Beatles fan. We literally walked back down the aisle to that song, and I love that in my house.
Well, this is amazing. Like, we could obviously do this for hours, and I might split this into two, because I think we've touched on like so many good things, and I want everyone to hear everything. But like, thank you so much for joining me. And at some point when you were like further along in your journey and you want to come back on and we can talk about all the big things that you're doing and, all the ways that you're making waves, like that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is like it's like all that stuff we've talked about that we don't love fuels the fire to really get out the real information and to truly go out and help patients. And so I love that you're doing that, and that you're also helping like clinicians and some of the things that you're putting out there too, and that you have all these plans for. And so thank you for your work and for reaching out, because, I think people are afraid to like reach out and ask to be on the podcast, or they're afraid to, I will invite people on any camp, and I will have a conversation with anybody, but most often it's people who typically are, kind of with my mind frame or similar experiences, beliefs, whatever, which is fine. But I invite people on who are like open to having conversations too, because I think that also could help propel this in the right direction. If we could also understand maybe where you're coming from. The issue is that you reach out to these people and oftentimes they just immediately, they block you. They're like, nope, not talking to you. Bye. I'm like, oh, okay, communication professional. Thanks for that. Have a good day.
Yes. Well,
Anyways,
it can be very discouraging and social media can be a scary place, but I appreciate professionals like you and
yourself.
And myself. And one thing I created was, positive affirmation cards, which are, I was going to send you a copy and and they're on my store, for adults and kids alike, just a couple pages that they have cute different animals and each one has a characteristic of that animal in a positive affirmation. So for example, I am powerful, I am strong, I am kind, and, bringing it back to positivity because everybody has a brain and everybody's brain works differently and life is not easy, life is hard, and it is our job to, as parents, as adults, and as medical professionals, to make it a better place for kids and to establish self-love and positivity. And that starts here by decreasing negative stigma associated with mental illness such as ADHD and medical diagnoses such as tethered oral tissues. So I appreciate you talking to me about all of this. And I hope you check out my positive affirmation cards and my website. And I just can't wait to talk to you again and all the big things coming. And I'm collaborating again with my friend Grace, who's Graceful Expressions SLP, on this product.
We did a post together once upon a time.
Everybody,
amazing.
I work hard to establish my social media. It is hard for me to keep up with it, but you've inspired me so much and I don't have any more imposter syndrome. I'm going to continue to post. I have hundreds of videos and posts that I just haven't posted yet because I get nervous and worry, but
do it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. One of the things, and we'll end on this, but like one of the things that one of my mentors also said was, you're going to be judged good or bad, right? People are going to judge you because they love your hair today. They're going to judge you because they hate the color you're wearing. They're going to judge you. And at the end of the day, does it matter?
Either way,
all the same energy, right? And so who cares what somebody thinks about you if you're out there changing lives? Like, so we have a choice. Like we can choose to either, sit here and stay in the imposter syndrome and worry about what people are going to think and how they're going to judge us, or we can basically kind of like quiet that from our being and choose to be the person who says, you know what, my mission is so much larger than the hate that I might get. So I'm choosing to just do it anyways. And it sounds like you're already there and you're already doing that. So I'm excited to see what's to come and I can't wait for it. So keep me posted.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you found value in this episode and want to hear more of these myotots, airway, and feeding related episodes, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode on your social media platforms. You can access free resources and all I offer at halliebalkin.com or pop over to @HallieBalkin on Instagram to get all the latest updates.